My name is Sydney Gary. I'm the Conference and Communications Coordinator for the Natural Start Alliance. Today, we are welcoming two wonderful colleagues of mine. Dr. Aliza Yair is an outdoor nature-based policy consultant for Natural Start, and Kit Harrington is our Senior Policy Advisor. Both are incredible people, incredible advocates, and what I would say, transformative system thinkers, and they've contributed so much to the field of nature-based early childhood education, and they're not done yet. It is truly an honor to have them here with us today to share about this new policy recommendations resource. Dr. Aliza Yair, again, is a systems-focused policy leader in nature-based early childhood education and child care. She's a consultant with Natural Start to support state-level outdoor nature-based policy efforts, and also serves for Washington State's DCYF as the Child Care Licensing Quality Assurance Continuous Quality Improvement Manager, focusing on increasing equity in government services. Aliza led the Washington Outdoor Preschool Pilot from 2017 to 2021, convening statewide partners and drawing from international efforts to help Washington become the very first U.S. state to define, regulate, and publicly fund outdoor nature-based childcare as a distinct program model. She has a master's in international education policy from Harvard's Graduate School of Education and completed her education doctorate at the University of Washington in 2024. Aliza loves to dance and garden and is dedicated to be in service to children and Earth. We also have Kit Harrington today, who is a longtime early educator, organizer, and advocate. Kit founded one of the country's first outdoor preschools in Washington State, later establishing the Washington Nature Preschool Alliance and leading advocacy to pass the country's first legislation to license outdoor and nature-based childcare programs. A contributing writer behind the Nature-Based Preschool Professional Practice Guidebook, Kit works to improve access to the benefits of nature for young children as Senior Policy Advisor for the Natural Start Alliance, supporting the growing outdoor nature-based policy movement through efforts like the Regional Network Alliance and Outdoor Nature-Based Policy Network, and as the Director of Communications and Engagement for Voices for Vermont's Children. Kit is passionate about creating spaces for belonging and inclusion and fostering responsive networks in the service of community-led advocacy and exploring the natural world with her two young children. We are so grateful and honored to have Kit and Aliza here today to introduce this critical new resource being made available to you all.
All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Sydney. Thank you to all of you for being here with us today. My name is Kit Harrington, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to get to share with you and to highlight all of the incredible work that's gone into this resource over the past couple of years. So Aliza, if you can flip over to the next slide, we'll get started. I just want to start out by highlighting that how far the field has come in a relatively short period of time and how much we have learned. 10 years ago, when we were just starting down this path of thinking about licensing outdoor and nature-based programs, there was so much in front of us that I think was unknown. And today we have so many resources, so much research that shows the real diverse range of benefits for young children's health and well-being, from physical health to cognitive health, cognitive well-being to mental health, access to nature and the outdoors and nature-based learning provides so many important benefits for young learners. I think that we could spend a lifetime researching it and we still wouldn't begin to unpack how important this relationship is. Connection to nature is something that is held in all of us on a deeply personal level. When we're carrying forward this work, we are carrying forward a way of learning and growing in relationship with the nature and the outdoors that has been in place for tens of thousands of years, as long as humans have existed. But at a time when every single child should have access to these kinds of experiences, we know there are profound barriers to participating in and learning outdoors. Natural Start has surveyed the field multiple times, first in 2017 and in 2021. And what we identified were these profound barriers in access to nature-based early learning experiences, barriers that continue to persist despite ongoing exponential growth in the field. And these communities that experience the greatest barriers to accessing outdoor and nature-based programs are also the same Black and Brown communities that face the greatest climate and environmental impacts and injustices today, and that stand to benefit the most from the ecogenic or leveling effects of access to nature-based experiences in early childhood. And there are so many resources out there, so much research that reflects that. And that is the energy that we're carrying into this work today and every single day, is how important this work is in this moment. We know the natural world is undergoing a vast transformation, and we can't afford to wait any longer to develop the kind of infrastructure and systems change that's needed to support the ability of every young child to benefit from and be able to have a early childhood education that incorporates access to nature and the outdoors. Next slide, please. Licensing is a critical step in this process. We know that it can help to address economic, programmatic, and other barriers by supporting access to key state and federal subsidized tuition sources. It can increase representation in state database, childcare databases. It supports the ability of programs to access state-level training systems. And so if you're here today, you probably have some degree of connection to licensing. You can't operate an outdoor or nature-based preschool program without being impacted by licensing systems, and yet only 42% of nature-based programs in our most recent survey indicated that, 42% of programs indicated that they're still having to find ways to operate outside of licensing. And among programs that operate entirely outdoors, only 15% are licensed. So we know this remains a persistent barrier to being able to operate these kinds of programs and supporting access. Next slide, please. Fortunately, what we're seeing at the same time is a movement that is progressing at a rate that I think none of us originally expected. We are seeing investment and collaboration across the spectrum of early learning and beyond. Groups are coming together to support the progress of outdoor and nature-based licensing, particularly on a state level across state agency partners, child advocacy partners, providers, practitioners who are carrying forward the work on the ground, really deeply thinking about what does it mean to practice this in a way that is safe and supportive and helps children to learn and grow. Alongside that, we have a whole range of partners that are deeply invested in thinking and working together and helping to support licensing change on a state level, helping to carry forward policy change on a state level, from our partners at NEAR, the National Institute for Early Education Research, to ECHO, Early Childhood Health Outdoors, the Children and Nature Network, and many others that are working to help carry forward this work. We also know that there are such a wide range of benefits that are associated with these kinds of experiences that it has really helped create avenues through which policymakers, researchers, practitioners are encountering and carrying forward this work on a state level. Next slide, please. In response to that, Natural Start has, and myself and Aliza and many others who are here today have had the opportunity to continue engaging with this work and supporting the field primarily through a network model by supporting state-based regional networks alongside national networks within the Natural Start Alliance, like the Higher Educators Coalition, the Black Educators Network, the Graduate Student Network, and our policy network. And our approach to this moment is to think about how can we work to build understanding and support on a state level, support the ability of provider advocates who are carrying this work forward, state agency representatives who are carrying this work forward to benefit from and learn from one another as they move forward. So if you're here today, you're wondering, what do these next steps look like for me? How do I continue to carry the work forward? You can do that on the QR code that was there earlier. So I just have a couple of more things before I hand it over to Aliza. I want to highlight that this resource was developed. It was a response to a state-directed call for national guidance, working with state agency representatives around the country, working alongside providers. What we heard from everyone was that there was a real request for national level guidance that could support the ability of states to really hone in and focus on creating place-based, locally oriented policy that reflected best practices for the field. So Aliza has a lot more to share about that, but it's just such an exciting moment, and you can move to the next slide. What I want to sort of bring us around to before we hone in on just exactly what that can look like and will look like in the form of this resource is that this is a moment that we have been working toward together alongside many of you for a number of years. But our hope is, and our vision is of licensing as a gateway. We are in the midst of a moment of profound change for our planet, for our country, and
thanks, Kit. I really appreciate the opportunity to share about this document. I have been involved in the development of it for a few years now, but it is the combined expertise of a number of folks within the Natural Start Alliance, including the Leadership Council, and also members of the working groups that Kit mentioned earlier. This resource and draft is a draft. It's a living document. We want to improve it as it is being used by folks. We are hoping for state agencies, local agencies, advocates, and program providers to use this document. And we have a link for feedback that will be open until March of next year. And we will let you know about other opportunities to discuss and ask questions about this document a little bit later. So the outdoor nature-based licensing recommendations, and I might just use the term ONB sometimes as we go forward in this presentation, it is a holistic national resource that is how you can keep kids safe outside. It is a system of regulations that can apply to diverse climates, ecosystems, and communities. So there will be notes within the document about when adjustments for local needs are encouraged. And also it is our hope that communities will apply their expertise and use this as a resource. It is useful for folks with licensing, but it's also for programs who aren't seeking licensing, in that it is a holistic, a comprehensive list of health and safety regulations that you can use in your policies. It is focused on regulatory considerations. So we consider this like a supplement to the professional practices guidebook, which hopefully somebody can put a link into the chat. And it describes the ONB approach to education and care, which can be applied to a number of different program models. And in this document, we also have information that discusses the different licensing pathways, pros and cons of different ways you can move forward with licensing as a process. And it includes the details of the recommendations. So in it, you'll see the words can or should or must, and those indicate different levels of encouragement from the working groups and of the Natural Start Alliance. The topics of the recommendations include site assessment and program planning, health and hygiene, outdoor safety, outdoor and nature-based curriculum and activities, staff training, qualifications and supervision requirements, and family engagement. And what we need to consider as you're reading the recommendations is that these recommendations are in addition to some standard licensing regulations where there would be no difference for a early learning program indoors or in an outdoor nature-based setting. I mentioned the guidebook, very helpful to understand a bit more of like, how does this look in programming? You can add curriculum resources, thinking about teaching competencies, make those adjustments and details, add details for the different climates and states, and really lean on community expertise. I can't stress enough how much more successful the process of developing ONB licensing is when you have collaborations, both from agencies to providers and across agencies and with tribes. Many agencies are involved in setting regulations for childcare or early learning programs. It's not just your Department of Licensing, could be Department of Ed, Health, your Parks Department, your Commerce Department, etc. So think about including them. There's a lot that can be talked about how we keep kids safe, but I want to spend some time on one particular practice, just in case folks are not familiar. The practice that is used within ONB programs and that can be used in any setting is benefit risk assessment. So risk being differentiated from hazard. A risk is something that is involved in learning. We don't want to get rid of risk. That's how we push ourselves to grow. And children learning everything for the first time are constantly taking risks. We also have an understanding of benefits of the outdoors. So over the past decade, the research has just exploded with clarifying all of the positive impacts of being outside on children's development, to the extent that actually not bringing children outside can be considered harmful to their development. Although no shade, because sometimes we don't have control over our environments. So we differentiate between hazards and risks. We also recognize that there are benefits and risks of being indoors and outdoors. Nature cannot be standardized, and so the benefit risk assessment process is a way of standardizing how we come to decisions of safety and communicate about them among providers and state agencies and parents, and also document it, because when you're providing a license, a state agency needs to check a program's policies, and a benefit risk assessment is going to be an integral part of how programs keep children safe. Another integral part is the teachers themselves. So we will also, in the recommendations, talk about staff training, because that is a really important part of applying this practice to risky play activities and other aspects of outdoor nature-based programming. So this is an example of a benefit risk assessment that has a lot of text. So you don't feel like you have to read it. I'll talk about the key points. And also, I should mention that some of these slides are a bit text heavy, and that is on purpose to support the learning of people who are more visual learners or who will be just looking at the slide deck after today. So I want to take this time to talk about relative risk in outdoor play and ground cover as an example of how we can use benefit risk assessment in various settings. So we're going to look at tree climbing and climbing a jungle gym. Now, there are differences in being outside in different types of environments, like in a forest or in a urban area. But when it comes to climbing on a tree and climbing a jungle gym have a lot of the same benefits to children's development. There's, slight differences in sort of hand-eye coordination and balance, because things are less standardized with tree climbing. But for the most part, we have those great benefits, and we also have similar hazards and risks, which is falling. Now, a traditional playground will have a ground cover of poured-in rubber or wood chips. And in an outdoor nature-based program, it will be just whatever the natural substrate is. And what programs will do is pick up the rocks that might be under there. They will inspect the trees for loose branches. They'll have a number of things they do in advance of children being able to climb the tree. And also there's a difference in supervision expectations. Instead of having guardrails on every platform that a child might be on, you have an adult providing that comfort and safety and ability to respond if there's any issues. But when we think about the relative risk in a playground on a jungle gym, the ground cover, the rubber and wood chips, actually often release toxins, especially when they are hot. And I suggest looking up the Children's Environmental Health Network. They have a lot of great resources that take this kind of approach of balancing risks and benefits to support decision making. Now, in terms of mitigation of ground toxins, there's not that much you can do. So maybe if it's really hot out, you just wouldn't go to that playground. Also, if the jungle gym is metal, it will be really hot to touch. So there's a number of hazards there that children will not be able to manage. So in the recommendations, we have that information about benefit risk assessment. We also have other information in the beginning prior to getting to the detailed recommendations. And one of those is a description of different program models. So the outdoor nature-based programs have common characteristics of being primarily outside in a nature-based setting, and that can happen in rural to urban areas with parks or different ways of landscaping. And there's also providing a nature-based curriculum. Now with licensing, there's kind of two main differences with program models, and that's whether you have a building, like a licensed building, a center, a family home, or whether you don't. Many outdoor nature-based programs operate without a building, one of those buildings, but instead have access to emergency shelters that they will use as needed. When you have access to a child care center, you might have a permanently located outdoor classroom, which you can also have if you don't have access to a building. And a lot of centers and family homes have a practice called going beyond the fence, which is when you take children to engage in a natural setting that is not regulated, or at least not standardized. And then there's other program types that are more like roaming programs, where they bring the resources with them to the locations that they will go to each day. And there's more information about these in the recommendations as well as information about licensing pathways. But I want to acknowledge that this document is supportive of a level of detail that goes into regulations. Some of it can influence law, and also there's different ways that society changes, that practice will change through either a legislative mandate or just through agency rulemaking. The pathways that we talk about in the document are beginning from program-specific waivers or variances. So this is a specific program. If you want to use these recommendations as your alternative ways to create the same kind of safety as would otherwise be met through licensing recommendations, that's one way that you can do it. You can also use these recommendations to change center and family home rules for outdoor environments. And so this would impact existing programs. And if you wanted to, you could also create a new program model. And we generally recommend a pilot or a demonstration site where a provider and state agencies can work through different rules and also use that time to develop things like training for your licensing staff or impacts to your quality and rating improvement system. There's those other aspects of the early learning system that will need to also make some adjustments to support O&B programs. You can also just create or adapt O&B regulations without a pilot. At this point, there's a number of states that have been doing this and have been testing out the levels of safety that exist, and you can do that. I still recommend partnerships with providers, though, just generally when you're doing any sort of rulemaking. That is what states usually do, and so keep doing that. And I want to say something about the rule change without doing a pilot. It is possible to consider doing a lot of like pre-work. So before changing licensing recommendations, having those partnerships built prior to starting a rule change process, which often has dedicated timelines. We've seen a number of states really benefit from having training for agency-based staff prior to engaging in rulemaking, and that helps the process go smoother as well. So a little bit more about what is in the recommendations. I'm going to go through the different topics and show you all of the different sections and recommendations that we have information about. We are to, as I said, cover specific considerations for an outdoor nature-based environment. And so, that's why you won't see some of the regulations that you would need for just like proper business owning, which exists for licensing already. So the first section is location assessment and program planning. The outdoor environments can include the bounded play spaces and the more wild beyond the fence spaces. Most nature-based programs will have some kind of indoor space or shelter. They all will have, or should have, for licensing an emergency shelter if needed to respond to extreme weather events. In these environments, programs use nature and natural elements to support children's development, so we want to make sure that those are there. And the location of an outdoor program is integral to the program planning. It is always site-specific and relational. The next section is health and hygiene. When providing an early learning program in an outdoor natural environment, this will require different methods of ensuring children's health and hygiene than when indoors. Outdoor environments also present their own unique needs for ensuring health and hygiene, and these are site-specific and climate-specific. An example that I like to talk about is hand washing, which you can see a picture of on the slide here. Setting up a portable hand washing station is possible and important. You can have that running water effect by having a flipping tap. And we also, though, in some places it's so dry that using a hand sanitizer would maybe actually not work. And so this is where partnerships with Department of Health are really important. But we are trying to get to health and hygiene through different methods. Thinking about relative benefit and risk. Benefit of outdoors is so vast to children's health that it behooves us as adults to figure out how to make it work. Developing these O&B programs is a great opportunity for some creative problem solving. And I know that there are some providers in this webinar today that have a lot of information and resources and support for that. The outdoor safety section. So weather, such as rain or wind, snow, high or low temperatures, are not usually a cause to close an O&B program. You might need to make some adjustments about where you are having your program that day, or the types of clothing that children will be wearing and adults, because suitable clothing and access to shade and shelter and some other practices that are described can make various weather conditions actually just an exciting and educational part of our experiences of nature. These experiences not only help children develop practical skills, but also nurture their sense of adventure and resilience. But that doesn't mean that we are exposing children to hazards, right? So outdoor programs have emergency responses to hazardous weather, such as like high winds or lightning. And these specific hazards would be dependent on your location and climate. And, we know that we are about to face some more extreme hazardous weather events. And so having this knowledge of how to respond specifically to different types of events, rather than just consider the indoors as the only safety option. Sometimes it is, but not always. We also get into the curriculum and activities, specifically talking about risky play activities. Folks want to know the details of how do you keep this safe? And you can set those in regulation or through guidance documents. But we in this recommendations document are showing how you can do all of these things safely. We also are sharing strategies around creating inclusion and belonging for different cultures, and also different needs with disability, setting boundaries to the play space, and also honoring Indigenous sovereignty and knowledge when setting curriculum. So some really good resources in here that keep children safe, but also support high quality learning and development. As I said earlier, staff training and qualifications, and also supervision requirements. These are a big safety method. When state licensing agencies should identify, establish, and provide outdoor nature-based specific competencies, training, and qualification requirements that are appropriate to their state and ecosystem. States should partner with program providers, higher education, and other workforce preparation and professional development partners to do so. States may need to revise existing pre-service or yearly training requirements like orientations, emergency preparedness plans, or medication management to describe the differences of how those will be done in an O&B program. Ensuring safety also requires staff to receive training about the site-specific benefit risk assessments and resulting safety plans. Depending on the level of risk that a program is engaging with, that will impact needs for supervision and ratios. So O&B programs may require different staffing ratios than traditional indoor care, or for programs with a center or family home that are engaging in risky play. And hopefully these will be considered and subsidized through the state subsidy system. And then the last section of the recommendations is family engagement. And as in all early learning and childcare programs, families and caregivers play an essential part in supporting children's growth and development in O&B programs. And for O&B programs, some of these additional considerations are around how you're going to get dressed, different approaches also to risk. And so having communication with families about that, as well as program locations if you're a roaming program, and you might not be at the same place every day at the same time. All of these things will be important for high quality and safe outdoor nature-based program. I'm looking at the time, and I might breeze over this next slide, and we can talk about this more. But one way that I also think about approaching safety is through safety strategies. And so if it helps to consider what are the pre-program things that we do specific to hazards where children cannot manage them, like a situation of being next to a busy road or a swift river. Like, there are situations where you would not give a license to an outdoor nature-based program. And this is really where that decision sits. However, there are hazards that can be managed in program. You have your emergency response plans, you have your storage of materials, you have your staff training, and these are things that you have in a child care center also. So this is not like a different approach. It just might look a little different in ONB regulations. And then with risk, children can manage it with support. And this is play and exploration. So, we want the benefit risk assessments, the staff training on emergent or child-led curriculum, those parent-child partnerships, and adjustments in the program as well to teaching strategies, using alternate activities, etc. So that's what's in the document, briefly. And we want to know how it works for you. So, how do they apply to your context? We tried to gather folks from across the country so that these could apply in different types of contexts, but it probably didn't catch everybody. Also, we are wondering what is unclear, where also might you need more information, because we are considering how to give folks a pathway from this document to more support on what that looks like in practice. As I mentioned, there's a form. The link is in the document. Please submit that by March. We will let you know about listening sessions. They'll be listed on the website where this recording and this document will be. And there's the policy huddles and regional networks on the website that you can access via the QR code or on the website. So that's it. I think we have time for a couple of questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a few that came in. Let me scroll up and find them here. Okay. Do licensing, and this is a question from Joanna, do licensing agencies have access or refer to or actively use the guidelines when conducting inspections?
That is our hope. They will have an existing checklist or other kind of resource that they're using. And yeah, we are hopeful that different state agencies will use this document to edit or revise or create a new checklist system. This document itself is not set up as a licensing measurement tool, but it definitely can inform those.
A question from Vanessa. Is the Leadership Council responsible for providing mentorship to programs that are interested in pursuing the process of opening an outdoor nature-based school? I'm guessing that's in reference to the Natural Start Leadership Council.
Natural Start's approach to that kind of mentorship is to support regional networks that are carrying forward and are best positioned to really offer the kind of place-based, on the ground expertise and support. And actually, I think we have some states that are starting to pursue a mentorship model in their regional network. I think Washington State is one of those. So if you have a regional network, that's something to think about. And if you don't, that's also something to think about. Also, a lot of great resources online too.
Yeah, there's all the resources that are linked on the Natural Start Alliance website.
A question from Aaron in the chat. Would there be any plans for you to create the trainings that the states could then mandate? I think the states are worried about how they would create the scaffolding for the training and professional development. For instance, Winter Safety 101 or that sort of thing.
You know, that's a really great idea. And I do know, to Kit's point, that there are regional networks that have developed trainings for licensing staff in their state. We, for this document, looking at it on a national level, will be having meetings and supporting state agencies in applying this document, both through Natural Start Alliance and also partners like the National Institute for Early Education Research. We already have plans with them to have some talks with state agency representatives. Yeah, it's training a licenser is a hard job. There's a lot of specificity that licensing staff need to know and also provide technical assistance and support on. So the training for licensing staff is really to try and get them to semi-expert level and also to be good partners. So it's a continuous learning process. And we are exploring all the different ways to get this information into different state agencies' systems.
And I just want to call out what I'm seeing in the chat, which is so many people coming forward, pointing toward folks who are out there or offering their services to help provide training. There are, and again, I think we're also seeing that on a state level in regard to how the states that have training systems in place have thought through this, are working to support other states and thinking about what that can look like. Aliza, I know that you're supporting that through the ONB-EL working group with NIR and with Kate Hodges as well. So it's this we're still defining what this looks like, but there is a spirit of collaboration and connection and a dedication to figuring these things out and working together in a committed way, because we all know how important this is. And that is just one of the most defining things about this field, and that you hear from people who come in, and connect with it, with this movement for the first time. And it's really a reflection of so many of you that are here today.
Yeah. And I think I'll add that a lot of times there is an attitude or expectation that a licensing agency wants to get you. And maybe that is true. But I do know that within the licensing field, there's a big shift and push away from that kind of punitive approach. And trying to get kids outside is a nice thing to do. It feels good. It's a good part of the job. So finding people within agencies or finding providers that are excited to do this work, like it said, it's very important and impactful. And these days, with all of the things that are going on, the licensing outdoor nature-based programs is a place where we're finding a lot of policy success, which can be really helpful for the mental health.
And I think one thing that I keep coming back to time and again, there are so many people on this call because we've all had some kind of experience outdoors that has transformed how we're thinking about the work that we're doing, that's transformed how we're thinking about what education can look like. And that is a pattern that we see reflected across all sectors. We see it in how licensing agencies are growing and stretching in their thinking too. So it isn't, not to say that it's an easy or process or that it's not complex, but it really is remarkable.
Okay, well, thank you both so much, Kit and Aliza, for joining us today. I know we didn't have all the time today for all the Q&As that came in, or questions, I should just say, that came in. But again, don't worry, everybody. If you have any burning questions or comments or thoughts about the resource that you'd like to share with us, please do visit our website where you can access a Google form to fill out, and you'll also access the full resource document there. The link is on the screen, but we'll also go ahead and drop that in the chat now. And it'll also be listed on the webinar page along with the recording within the next week. So before we part ways this afternoon, I just want to share a couple of quick announcements. We do have 2 more webinars on the calendar to close out the year, the next one coming up on November 13th. You'll get to hear from Emily Van Lan, who many of you know and love through her work with Natural Start over the years. She's now the manager of Discover the Forest, which is a national early childhood initiative led by NAAEE. And it's all about promoting outdoor play and learning as a powerful tool to support young children's health, their development, and connection to the natural world. Discover the Forest is launching their new and improved website. We are all so excited about it. And so in this webinar, attendees will get an inside look and learn about the program's new direction and ways to get involved. Then in December, we're welcoming Emily Johnson, who is a co-author of Flourishing in Winter, which is a guidance for cold weather play. She'll share her research on winter play and nature-based programs based in Minnesota and Norway, and then also share lessons learned about how to maximize the benefits of cold weather play while keeping children safe and comfortable. Be sure to register to attend. You don't want to miss either of these virtual events, but if you do, as always, our webinar recordings will be made available on, I'm like adopting an accent as I'm talking, sorry. Our webinar recordings will be made available within the week after their scheduled dates. Another reminder that registration is still open for NatStart 25, all on-demand content accessible until July of next year. That includes over 100 sessions, posters, workshops, and site tours, as well as certificates of participation for every session that you attend. Visit our conference website to register today or anytime. And then lastly, but certainly not least, the NatStart 26 call for proposals is open. If you're not already aware, we are heading to San Antonio, Texas next year, June 24th through the 27th. We'll also have an online event for the conference. So we're accepting proposals to present either at the in-person event or the online event. Our theme for next year is Imagine If. So we're particularly interested in proposals that are exploring innovation and collaboration in the continuous pursuit of high quality and equitable nature-based early learning for all children. Again, you can visit the conference website to learn more and apply today. The deadline to submit is December 12th. That is all of my announcements for today. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. Thank you, Kit and Aliza. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again soon.